This customer requested a 3-tier Winnie the Pooh baby shower cake. But before we get into it, I just wanted to thank you guys for 900K. You guys are seriously the best. So I start out with my 3 tiers already frosted and stacked. And the first thing I'm going to add are my edible images, which is going to be the honey pot topper as well as Pooh and Piglet. Using a thin brush and green food coloring, I paint some grass around them. Then it's time to add the honey drip on all 3 tiers. I start out on the top tier all around that honey pot, and you can kind of tell that I struggled a bit trying to get this honey to fall in a messy look. I kept hesitating while doing this drip just because I intentionally wanted it to not look perfect, and this was clearly a struggle for me. But after I got comfortable with the consistency and the placing of the drip, the middle and bottom tier went a lot smoother. For that middle yellow tier, I just knew that I wanted the honey to drip on both sides of that image, as well as a couple of random drips to the back. And for that bottom pink tier, I knew that I wanted the drip to go all the way around, which was definitely more in my comfort zone. Once all the drip is on, it kind of gives me an idea of what space I have left to work with. Next, I placed the bees. I did hand make these out of fondant, and they were a lot of fun to make. I did use a small stick to help me place these into the cake. They were a little bit on the heavy side, and they would not have stayed on the buttercream otherwise. Now this next part was very tedious, but watching this back and playing it at a faster speed was pretty satisfying. I grabbed a thin brush and dipped that in black food coloring, and then I just slowly painted all of these lines. I highly recommend having good, thin brushes for cake decorating. I don't really use them often, but when I need them, I really do need them to be extremely fine. So I will be linking this set that I'm using in my bio. For painting cakes, I also strongly recommend keeping the cake either refrigerated or in the freezer for about 15 minutes before painting. Otherwise, your frosting will be too soft and that brush will just drag through that buttercream. Once I'm done painting all of these lines, I'm going to go back to that edible image. You can't really tell now, but Pooh and Piglet are actually blowing dandelions. Unfortunately, I had to cut those out of the image because those lines were just way too small. But I figured it was no big deal because I could just go back in using my small brush and paint those dandelions onto the cake. And they actually came out way better than I expected. And now it's time to add the final details. I placed these little flowers all around the cake that I made using purple, blue, and pink fondant. And I did make these using a silicone mold. I just try and make sure I place these as evenly as possible before placing some on the back. And it's all done. I hope you guys like this one. It's one of my new favorites. I also got feedback from the customer a couple days later, and she said the cake was a hit.